the streets of Gotham, a young boy was carefully putting up posters for his lost dog, Buster. Each poster offered a reward of $6 if the dog was found in return. Pole by pole, he worked his way down the street. Suddenly, his quiet search was interrupted when a man running full speed crashed into him, scattering several of the posters across the ground. The boy stumbled and looked back to see why the man was in such a rush. That's when he saw Batman keep trailing behind him, closing in on the criminal. The Dark Knight swooped past and the boy froze with his mouth wide open, astonished to be so close to Gotham's protector. Batman leapt onto the man's back, tackling him to the ground. He pinned the criminal with practiced precision and drew back a fist, ready to strike, but something stopped him. Glancing over his shoulder, Batman noticed the boy watching, eyes wide with awe. At that moment, the boy's mother appeared, hurrying over and pulling her son away from the scene. As she guided him down the street, Batman began securing the man's hands behind his back with bat rope. The boy couldn't keep his eyes off him, even as his mother tugged him along. Posters for Buster kept slipping from his bag and fluttering to the ground. Batman caught one, reading the words about the missing dog. He looked back at the boy, now a small figure in the distance, and tucked the poster away. Later that day, the boy emerged from his home with his backpack slung over his shoulder. Instead of heading somewhere, he sat down right in the middle of the street and pulled out a box of colored chalk. With full concentration, he began sketching Batman's symbol onto the road, his small hands working to make it as perfect as possible. He was so absorbed in his drawing that he didn't notice the red truck barreling down the road toward him. The driver spotted the child too late, slamming the brakes and jerking the wheel while blaring the horn. But the boy didn't move. He couldn't hear it. At the last second, Batman swung down from above, scooping the boy out of harm's way. They tumbled onto the sidewalk as the truck roared past. Shaken, the boy looked up at Batman in shock, then slowly lifted his hands and signed one word: Bat. Batman then realized the boy was deaf. He responded by signing a simple hello. The boy had scraped his knee during the fall, so Batman opened his utility belt and carefully treated the injury. The boy signed again, asking, how? Batman reached back into his belt and pulled out the dog poster he had picked up earlier, holding it where the boy could see. Through signs and gestures, Batman asked about the dog. The boy explained as best he could, reliving the painful memory. He had been playing with Buster in the park, tossing a spiked rubber ball for him to fetch. Suddenly, 3 men approached. Buster barked furiously, sensing danger. One of the men snatched the dog, grinning wicked. The boy tried to fight back, clawing to free his dog, but the men struck him across the face. His glasses flew off as he hit the ground, hard, bleeding, and helpless. The men walked off with Buster while he lay there, powerless. As he finished telling the story, the boy's hands trembled, the tears spilled down his face. Batman crouched low, resting a hand gently on his shoulder in silent comfort. When it was time to leave, Batman supported the boy, holding his hand as they walked back to his home. Once the boy went inside, Batman waited, drawing uneasy glances from passers-by who whispered at the sight of him. After a few minutes, the boy reappeared and gave Batman the very spiked rubber ball he had once played with alongside Buster. Later, Batman walked through Gotham with a leash in one hand and the boy's red spiked ball in the other. At the end of the leash was Ace, the Bat Hound, his trusted companion. The moment Ace got the scent from the ball, his nose twitched and he pulled forward with purpose. Batman tightened his grip as Ace dragged along, following the trail of the missing dog through dark streets and narrow alleys. Finally, Ace stopped at a rusted metal door, pawing at it with urgency. Batman rewarded him with a small treat from his utility belt, rubbing his head in appreciation. Ace had done his part. Now it was time for Batman to do his. Batman knocked on the door. A small metal hatch slid open, revealing the eyes of a man inside. Batman calmly held up the lost dog poster. The man glanced at it, unimpressed, then quickly raised a gun and aimed it straight through the opening. But Batman was faster. With a sharp movement, he twisted the man's arm, yanking the weapon out of his hand. Before the man could react, Batman kicked the door clean off its hinges, sending it crashing down on him. Ace leapt forward, teeth bared, following Batman as they stormed inside. The criminals within immediately raised their gun, but Batman was already moving. He darted through the room, landing kicks and punches with brutal precision. his cape sweeping like a shadow. Ace attacked and sinked, lunging at ankles and arms, throwing off their aim. Even as Batman dismantled the room of thugs, one man managed to slip behind him, gun arrayed, and finger tightened on the trigger. Before the shot could fire, Ace launched himself at the man, clamping his jaws around the gun hand. Batman spun, delivering a swift knockout punch that sent the thug to the floor. Together, they had cleared the room. Ace's nose twitched again. He walked towards a large box shoved into the corner, scratching at it with his paw. Batman followed, giving his loyal dog another affectionate rub on his head. He pried the box open and looked inside, confirming what Ace had found. Batman closed the box gently. Ace pressed his head against Batman's shoulder, a gesture of reassurance. Soon after, the police arrived, rounding up the unconscious criminals and taking them into custody. Batman carried the box outside, Ace walking proudly at his side. At the Batmobile, he placed the box carefully on the seat beside the red-spiked ball. Ace hopped in, and the two of them drove off towards their next destination. When they finally reached the boy's apartment, Batman carried the box to the door and rang the bell. The boy and his mother opened it, and their faces froze in shock at the sight of Batman standing on their doorstep. Batman didn't speak. Instead, he smiled and opened the box, and out leapt Buster, tail wagging furious. The spiked ball clenched in his mouth. He leapt into the boy's arms, showering him with wet licks. The boy laughed while his mother gasped. Overwhelmed with emotion, his tears slid silently down her face. After hugging his dog tight, the boy paused after a moment. He turned back towards Batman, gesturing for him to wait. He handed Buster to his mother and dashed back inside. Moments later, he returned with a small wallet, fumbling to pull out coins. Carefully, he counted them one by one until he had $6, the exact reward he had promised on the poster. He offered the coins to Batman, who quietly shook his head in refusal, but the boy pointed at the poster and said, "Reward, $6. Batman accepted the reward and the boy hugged him tightly. His mother, overcome with emotion, signed a heartfelt thank you, her tears still flowing. The boy wept softly but smiled, clinging to his hero. Batman rested a hand on his back, returning the embrace. Later in the Batcave, Batman pinned the Lost Dog poster to a wall already crowded with similar posters of animals he had returned home. Each paper told its own small story of rescue and reunion. Standing in front of the wall, Batman allowed himself the smallest smile. He reached down and petted Ace, who wagged his tail proudly, both content with another job well done.